So the story takes place in Alaska, where I went with my husband in 2000. He's a composer, and he was writing a piece for the state of Alaska for the millennium. And he said, "You want to go to Alaska?" And I said, "Well, yeah, sure, why not?" I noticed that there was a pretty little nature trail, didn't look too demanding, looked like something I could do by myself. I took off with all of my gear. I had my backpack, which I borrowed from my daughter who was in junior high school. I had my bear bell. The whole idea of the bell is that you want to notify any bears that you're coming, and so it acts as a deterrent. So I had my backpack and I had my bell, and I took off on this beautiful day on an exquisite nature trail. I always enjoy this, going to a place and reading a story about somebody who's been there. I've done that a number of times. You know, a memoir. I like memoir, obviously. That's what my organization is about. But I like to read about somebody who's been there and sort of start to see the place through their eyes. And I stumbled across this one book called A School Teacher in Old Alaska by a woman named Hannah Brees. It was quite daring. As she describes herself, she's, you know, tromping off of steamer ships and into the Alps and so forth, wearing long skirts and boots. And I found myself just seeing the whole place through her eyes, and, you know, all but the long skirts. I was Hannah Brees, you know, in old Alaska. So off I go, and I'm walking through the woods, and it's a beautiful sunny day. I'm having a great time. I'm feeling very safe and very secure. I've got my bell. I'm all cool. So I come upon a little footbridge, and next to the footbridge is a sort of semi-dead fish flapping around. And I thought, oh, this must be a salmon stream. I've never seen salmon before running. Running actually means leaping. So I walked over to the onto the footbridge, looking more closely, and I hear this. I didn't know that they made a noise when they jump, and then they go again. And I'm listening more closely. Why are those salmon making a noise? And then suddenly it just comes to me that this is not the salmon that are grunting. This is something else. And I look off to the distance, and there stands Mama Bear. Side by side are her two cubs. You know, I found myself experiencing Alaska as if I were this person. I mean, maybe it sounds a little insane, but you know, that is the power of drama, that, you know, you experience something through another person. And I realized that this place had so much more depth and meaning to me because I was experiencing it through somebody's eyes who had been there in history. You know, for me it was history, and so it wasn't just a trip someplace, it was a real journey. Now, one of the things that they tell you is that the most dangerous situation you can be in is encountering a bear with her babies, because she wants to protect them. And so there I am, and I put it together too that I'm also standing between the bears and the bear and the cubs and their lunch, which I have obviously interrupted. And I keep calm and remember that what they tell you to do if you encounter a bear is to just slowly back away. And I back out of the woods, but it is not that easy to back out of the woods. Woods have twists and turns. But somehow or other, I make it out of there in one piece, not eaten by the bear. That was kind of the moment that I realized how powerful personal story is for me, and I think for other people as the organization has developed and in that direction, that, you know, to learn about something through the eyes of somebody who's actually experienced it is so much more powerful than, you know, reading an essay or, you know, a more didactic description of something that happened. So the story I then tell at the Chestnut Hill Story Slam is about our first Story Slam at L'Etage, which is where we started out. And when we went to check our supplies, we discovered that the little buzzer that we were planning to use to give people a 4-minute warning to let them know that they had only 1 minute to wrap up their story wasn't working. So I live right near L'Etage, and I ran home to see if I could find something that we could use as a warning bell. Voila! Now this turns out to be better as a warning bell than it was as a warning bell in Alaska, but here it is, and we have used this bell in every Story Slam since we started them 6 years ago, and it was the sort of the coda to this whole experience.